Hi, it's Matt here from Go Green Autos. So in this video I'm just going to look at the charging speeds of these older Teslas. In this case mine is a 2014 Model S 85 kilowatt hour pack rear wheel drive, and it's done 109,000 miles now. So I'm here again at the new Oxford Fastned charging hub, where we've got these Tesla version 3 250 kilowatt chargers. So as these chargers are CCS only, I need to get my CCS adapter and plug this in. So this car's only at 8% charged, so I'm going to sit here and monitor the charging speeds and see what these are now charging at, because if you don't know, Tesla have throttled back the charging speeds on these early cars to prolong battery life. Right, let's jump in. So if you can see through the reflections there, our charging speed is going up 85, 90, 100, oh very good, 112, 120, 130 kilowatt. Right, 126. So yeah, so 130 kilowatt there, which is very good. So we can see our battery is 9% now. It was at 8% just now. I've just done a run to Luton Airport. Yeah, the battery is nice and hot. So if you don't understand how EV batteries work, to get the maximum, the peak charging rates, you're going to get it when the battery is empty. So it's always best, if you're doing a journey, to charge when the battery is flat as possible. And that is because the vehicle, the battery should I say, can absorb that high DC power better when it's empty, and as the battery charges up it can't absorb that high power so much, so your charging rate drops as it fills up. And that's why most manufacturers always quote a charge time from either 0 or 10% to 80%, because it's inefficient in your time to charge any more than 80%. You're better off disconnecting and carry on driving, because often with the smaller battery cars it will take as long to charge it from 80% to 100% as it does from to charge from 0 to 80%. So looking at the dash now, we are now charging at 108 kilowatts. It's added 3 kilowatts already, and on the Teslas it shows you that how many miles per hour you're charging at, and this is charging at 330 miles per hour. Not that you'd ever be putting 330 miles into a battery pack, because it's not that big. It doesn't do that many miles. Up on the screen there it's also saying time remaining to continue trip 9 minutes. Because I've got the rest of my trip in the navigation, it was saying I only need to do a 15-minute stop here, which gives me enough power to get home, and to get home with, from memory, something like 30% battery in it, which it's not allowing me to scroll that down anyway. That's trouble when you're filming, it's very difficult to multitask. You're trying to think what you want to say and do something. So yeah, if I try to do something I tend to have a bit of a brain freeze. But so anyway, we're now charging at 100 kilowatts. It's added 6 kilowatt hours of electricity already, and we're only what, 2 minutes in, something like that. But I left the bonnet open, so I'm going to get out now and shut the bonnet and keep monitoring this charge speed. Oh, and I would just say we're now at 16% charge, so we've gone from 8 to 16% in the length of time it's taken me to film this, which I guess we must be 2 to 3 minutes in now. Right, that's the bonnet shut and all the fans have come on. It's making a right noise out there. I'm not sure whether my phone is picking that up, but yeah, it's obviously quite hot. So our charging rate has now dropped to 94 kilowatts, and we've added 8 kilowatt hours already. So on these older Teslas, what Tesla have done is sent an over-the-air update down to the cars, and they have reduced the charging rates, the charging speeds on these earlier Model S's. And that is because they have found that the battery packs were suffering because of the high charging speeds. So they just sent this update out to all the older cars and have reduced the charging speeds to prolong the life of the packs. And a lot of people have got very upset about that. Personally, I think it's a good thing. I would much rather have a car that charged a little bit slower and had a much healthier pack and a longer life because of it. Because after all, it's still not really slow. You know, still much better than any other car of this age, any other EV of this age. But a lot of people got very upset about it, and I think the problem was because it wasn't communicated very well. There was nothing, actually just went out to the cars and suddenly these cars were charging slower. But in my mind, it's a good thing, and it just shows how good Tesla are being proactive. Other EVs, you know, if they've discovered some years later that it needed a change, unless they're going to do a recall, it just doesn't happen. Or unless you book your car in and get a software update, which dealers will tend to charge for anyway. On the Teslas, because they do over-the-air updates so well, it just streams down to all the old cars. So yeah, I think it's a good thing. And you've got to remember as well, this is a Generation 1 Model S. This is 2014, but these came out in 2012 in America. It was their first EV, and this has got an 85 kilowatt hour battery pack. Everything else in the EV world at that time had a 12. I'm thinking of all the cars around there. There was 12 kilowatt hour cars, 17, 22 and 24 kilowatt hours. So this had a huge battery compared to anything else out there, and this charged, I think, at 120 kilowatts, and everything else, the maximum you could charge these other cars to at the time was 50 kilowatt, and for some years later as well. So these were really good for the in that era, and still better than a lot of cars now. Obviously, some of the other cars, like the new 800 volt Architect cars, are charging at 300 kilowatt or so, maybe 350. And obviously all the later Model S's, Model X and the Model 3 and Model Y all charge much quicker. But these older cars, for their time, they were, you know, so far advanced to anything else. And okay, they're not quite as good now. It's dropped back. This car's 8 years old, but we look here, it's still charging at 84 kilowatt and the battery's at 25%. So yeah, it's not as good as maybe it once was, but it's still pretty good. So sorry it's a bit dark now, but it is getting dark outside, so it's not a great time of day to make a video. But anyway, the other thing I just want to check is I've got my charging threshold up quite high, so I'm going to change that so we just charge to about that level. So that is, if I can get it to about there, that's roughly 75% state of charge or so. We're now at 27%, as you can see there, and we're still charging 82 kilowatt. We've added 14 kilowatt hours already, and it's saying it's got 40 minutes left to get it up to that limit that I set there. So I forgot to look at the time it was when I pulled in. I'll have to look back at the video clips when I do the editing, but it's 9:41 in the evening now. The battery's at 30%, and I've been here for about 6 or 7 minutes now, and we've added 16 kilowatt hours in that time, and that's about what other EVs at the time could take on a rapid charge, and we've done that in 6 minutes or so. Other EVs at the time, to get that sort of amount of energy, 16 kilowatt hours, would have taken 20 to 25 minutes. So yeah, even with the slightly throttled back charging speeds, it's still so much better than anything else of the same sort of age. So a couple of more minutes in, the battery is at 33% state of charge, and it's still sitting at 73 kilowatt charging speed. and it's obviously not going to go any more than that, even though it did peak at about 130 when I initially switched it on. It soon dropped, and we're still only at 34% now, and yeah, 72 kilowatt charging speed, so it's going to sit at that for some time. And we've added 19 kilowatt hours of energy, and it's predicting 40 minutes left to get it up to that capacity. The fans are making a racket as well, so it obviously was very hot, which I'm not surprised. I've just driven back from London, down the M1, M25 and up the M40. So yeah, the battery was very hot. It doesn't normally make this sort of noise that it's making now, but yeah, just shows it's all working, doing its job, and we're at 35%. So we're now at 37% state of charge, and over the last few percent the charge rate has dropped down from 70 to 79, now down to 68 kilowatt. So on an EV, the battery actually needs to be much hotter than you think to get peak charging times. There's this sort of assumption that we need cooling on the battery packs all the time, which obviously you do in some climates, but a lot of batteries now are having battery heaters, and indeed the Tesla does this as well. And when you select that you're going to navigate to a charger, it puts the battery heater on, and it actually warms the battery up. So when you get to your charger, the battery is at optimum temperature, which I think is sort of like 30 degrees, and obviously in the UK that's hotter than it is at pretty much any time, even in the summer. So the majority of the time the car is heating the pack up to get the best speed, not cooling it. But because I've been driving on the motorway for 3 hours or so this evening, I think the battery was particularly hot on this, because it also has sort of drained down to only what was it, 8%, 7%, something like that, and doing high-speed driving, and the fans are making much more noise than they normally would. They are, some of them are just tamed down a little bit there. But yeah, maybe I'm not getting as good charging speed as I would do if the battery was a little bit cooler, because the fans have come on certainly much earlier and much more vigorously than they normally would do on a rapid charge. So we're now at 42% charged. We're charging at 62 kilowatts. It's put 25 kilowatt hours in the pack, and we're now charging at a rate of 190 miles an hour. So yeah, it's dropped quite significantly. It's saying we've got 35 minutes left to bring it up to the limit that I've set. So it certainly feels, just sitting here, that it's slower than it often normally is. But then I'm sat here just watching paint dry, really. Normally I would, if I wasn't off getting a cup of coffee or something, I would have YouTube or Netflix running. But one thing's a pain on this, but while it's great that you can watch media and watch YouTube and things, when you have YouTube or Netflix on, it turns the binnacle up here off, and then you lose all this charge information. So today I'm not going to watch anything on here, because I'll have nothing to show you. It does put some little stats up on the top of the screen, but doesn't really show you everything that we'd want to see in this video. So for the purposes of recording the sort of charge curve and charge speeds on these older cars, I'm just going to sit here and watch this. So here at Oxford, there's actually 12 of these new version 3 chargers, and there's another Model S charging down there. So if you don't know, the version 3 is Tesla's latest charging stall, and they only have one cable, which is a CCS. The Tesla Model Y and Model 3 have CCS on them, but the older cars, the S and the X, you have to have that adapter if you want to use these later chargers. The other Tesla chargers, the previous ones, the version 2s, had 2 cables on them, both the proprietary Tesla connector that fits the S and X, and then also the CCS cable that fits the 3 and the Y, and also other vehicles. But yeah, the new chargers they're putting in now only have the one cable, so it's quite important that people who drive the older cars get that CCS upgrade to allow them to charge at these newer stalls. And these are going to be the stalls that they're going to open up to the rest of the general public. They're doing a trial at the moment and opened up a few sites, but eventually all cars will be allowed to charge at these version 3 stalls. That's if you've got CCS on your car, of course. So back to the charging. It is now 21:53. We're at 47%, and we're now charging at 53 kilowatt. We've added 29 kilowatt hours. We're now charging at a rate of 164 miles an hour. That figure's a bit irrelevant, to be honest. But anyway, we've got 35 minutes remaining. If I wanted to wait until that threshold of 75-80% or so, I think I'm going to today, actually, because I've got to do quite a bit of driving again tomorrow. And the reason why I'm going to sit here and take a full charge is, firstly, I'm not hogging any chargers. There's only 2 vehicles here, so there are 10 units free. And secondly, at home, I'm no longer on the Octopus Go tariff. So I've moved recently, and firstly you have to take a new contract. So I'm on the capped rate now at the new house, and don't have a smart meter yet, and as of yet cannot take the Octopus tariff to the new property. So I'm paying, I think the cap rate is 26 or 28p a kilowatt hour, whereas before I was paying 5p a kilowatt hour to charge overnight, and I did all of my charging overnight, and at that sort of price, at 5p a kilowatt hour, I hardly noticed the cost of running the electric cars on the electricity bill. But now I'm paying 26 or 28p a kilowatt hour, so it's a huge amount extra. And so now I take advantage of the free supercharging that little bit more. When eventually I get a smart meter and hopefully I can have the Octopus Go tariff back at home, the new rate on that now is 7.5p a kilowatt hour during the night time, during your 4-hour window at night. So when I can have that back, yes, I will put all the car charging to that time in the middle of the night, and I won't use the public charging so often. But until then, the cost of running the car has really shot up just because I'm paying so much more in electricity. So yeah, I'm going to take advantage of the free supercharging a little bit more. So we're now at 55%. Our charging rate is at 46 kilowatt. We've added 35 kilowatt hours into the pack during this charge, and we've got 25 minutes left to charge it to that sort of 80% threshold that I've set. I know this video is going to be very boring for most people. There's my puddle lights, look at that. So I'll give you something else to look at. So I'll explain these chargers. So on the Tesla chargers, these new version 3s are grouped in 4s. So as you can see there, it says 2C. This one is 2B, and obviously there'll be a 2A and a 2D further along. So before, originally they were in pairs, and now they're in 4s. And what that means is a bank of 4 is going back to a cabinet, which I assume is behind that fencing over there. And one cabinet provides the power to 4 chargers, and these are all 350 kilowatts. No, sorry, 250 kilowatts. And then over there we've got the Fastned chargers, and they are 300 kilowatt each. And there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of those. They charge 2 vehicles at a time, so 10 of those. And then over on the other side of the bank here, we've got all of these Waney AC chargers, and they are 22 kilowatts AC. But I've done another video on this location, which is on YouTube. If you want to have a look at that, I'll put a link in the description below if you want more information on this charging hub. But yeah, there we go. And I'm now the only car here on the Tesla side. So we've got 11 stalls free. And if you've never used a Tesla rapid charger before, then they are just a frame with your cable and connector. So these ones obviously CCS, so I've had to use my adapter, but you just plug it in. You don't do anything. There's no buttons, there's no screen, there's nothing on the stalls at all. So to take payment, it's all done through the app. But because this car has got free supercharging, I don't even open the app, I just plug it in. And the charging unit reads the VIN of the car, so it knows what car it's connected to. They do all of that. So there's nothing to do other than grab hold of the cable and plug it in and walk away if you want to. And if you did have to pay, obviously majority of Tesla drivers have to pay for this, then the app has your car in it, so it all links through to the app and they've got your credit card, and that's how the payment is taken, is via the app and then onto your card, because you put your car into your app. So yeah, it works really well. There's no buttons, there's no screen, you don't have any contactless cards or RFID cards, or you don't have to open an app and log in or anything. As long as it's all set up beforehand, which of course it will be when you set up your account, you just drive up to a charger, plug it in, job done. So overall, the Tesla charging experience is by far the best out of any network in the UK. They're just always reliable, always work, and in most sites they've got the most as well. And yeah, not messing around with forms of payment or apps is just lovely, and they've really got it right. But of course it works so well because the cars and the chargers is all from the same company. There's a sort of level of integration that you just don't get with any other EVs or chargers. So let's jump back into the car. And get my foot caught in the door. So I can push the right button. So we're now at 64% state of charge. We've added 42 kilowatt hours. We're now charging at a rate of 41. It's just jumped to 42 kilowatts, which is 128 miles per hour, and it's saying we've got 20 minutes remaining, and the fans have quietened down. Let's just turn off the aircon. Yeah, fans have turned off completely. It's silent out there. So yeah, clearly this battery was a bit too hot when I pulled up, and that's why maybe I'm not getting the sort of charge rates that I was expecting. It certainly does feel like this is charging a little bit slower. But anyway, real world experience. This is a lot of times when you will rapid charge an EV, it's because you've been driving on the motorway network as well. So yeah, it's a fair example. So if I did want to watch, let's say Netflix, you see the main screen goes out. However, that charging information is also on the app on the phone, but of course I'm using my phone to film this, so that gets a bit too complicated if I've got to do screenshots and that sort of stuff on my phone in a different app. But if I just let Netflix load here, turn the volume down, along the top of the screen, maybe it's only when you go into something you get your chart. There it is at the top there. So at the top of the screen, briefly there, you get your state of charge. There it is, 67%. So we're now going into the film, and I think at any time if you touch the screen, yeah, you get your charge, state of charge up there. So if you're watching something, at least you can see what the battery is, but it would be nice if they brought all this information back on the screen. I know why they turned this screen off, because you're not meant to drive, well, you can't drive with the theatre mode on, so obviously they disable all the functions up here, but it's only software. It'd be nice if we could have the charging stats back up there. But anyway, I thought I'd show you that. Let's cancel this, hit the X in the corner, and then we're back and go back up to the battery. So we're now at 68%. We're now charging at 40 kilowatts, and we've added 44 kilowatt hours. So it's predicting we've got 14 minutes left. So I know visually this isn't a good video. It's not a good idea to be filming in the dark in a floodlit car park with no one else around and not much to point the camera at, and just looking at the dash inside a badly lit car. You know, it's a pretty dull video. But anyway, there's a lot of people very concerned about the throttling back of the charge speeds on these earlier Teslas. So some people find this stuff useful to see how these really do charge in a real world scenario. So anyway, we're now at 71%, and we're now charging at 38 kilowatts, and we've added 47 kilowatt hours, which is 119 miles an hour, and we've got 10 minutes left to get that last little bit in. Oh, and if you don't realize how this works, so on a Tesla you can adjust the charging threshold, your state of charge level. So the daily recommended region is anything from 50% to I think that's about 80%, and then they say you only recommend anyway, you only charge over the 80%, anything between 80 and 100% when you're doing a trip. So it gives you a lot of adjustability, so you can really reduce that state of charge if you don't need it. And of course these have got huge battery packs, so the majority of the time I leave it just at 50% and just do little top-ups, and I don't need the full amount of the battery. But if I'm doing a trip, like I've done this trip today to Luton Airport, I did charge the car up to, I don't know, 76%, something like that, I think it was. I actually forgot to plug it in. I only plugged it in this afternoon when it only had a few hours left before I had to leave. So yeah, even then I didn't charge it up to full or anything near full. And actually I could have probably just got home as well. But yeah, stopped off here to do this charge just because I thought, well, I'll make a video and I want to grab some free electricity, of course. But yeah, having this adjustability to change your state of charge is great, because you can, if it's appropriate, you can put some effort in and not charge your battery to such a high level, which will have a long-term benefit. Whether that's measurable, I don't know. Majority of other electric vehicles, they just charge to 100%. Some of them you can drop the charge down to 80% and cap it at 80% if you want to. But I think on the Teslas they don't have the sort of buffer top and bottom like other cars do. Instead they give you this flexibility and allow you to decide and do it, whereas other cars they've gone another way and made it more simple, where you don't have that decision. But what they've done is put a bigger buffer top and bottom of the battery pack, which you can't access. So at least with a Tesla, if you're going to do a long trip and you want 100% charge, you can get 100% charge. But the recommendation is only do it when you really need it. Reduce your charge more like to 80% or less for your normal day-to-day driving. So we're now at 74% state of charge, and it's now charging at 37 kilowatt, and we've added 49 kilowatt hours, and we've got 2 minutes remaining. So that threshold I'd set is about probably 76%. So what I'm going to do is just up it just a little bit to somewhere there. And now our time remaining has jumped up to 11 minutes. So we're now at 76% state of charge, and it's charging at a rate of 36 kilowatt. It's been sat at 37 kilowatts for quite some time, but we've added 50 kilowatt hours during the visit now, and I've got 9 minutes left. So a lot of people with more newer modern cars would say 36 kilowatt charging speed was pretty poor, even at 76%. But you got to remember, this is an 8-year-old EV, and you got to compare it with other 8-year-old EVs, really, and that's still a pretty reasonable charge rate at this at 70, well now 76%. So the fans have come on as well, not hugely loud like they were initially, but they certainly are doing some sort of cooling on the pack. I don't have the aircon on now either. So I think I'll wrap it up now, because I'm going to disconnect fairly shortly. But anyway, final check-in, we're at 77% state of charge. The charging rate has now dropped down to 34 kilowatt, but during this charge we've added 51 kilowatt hours of energy into the pack, and yeah, we've got 8 minutes remaining if I want to leave it till then. But yeah, I'll leave it at that. At least it gives you real world scenario of the reduced charging rates on these older Model S's, and that was with obviously a very hot battery pack after doing quite a few hours of high-speed motorway driving. So probably not a showing it off at its best, as it were. They probably do charge a little bit more, but overall I'm reasonably happy with the charge rates. You know, I don't find it much of an issue that Tesla have lowered the charge rates on these cars with an over-the-air update. As I said, I'd much rather have battery life than super fast charging. You know, if I wanted super fast charging, there are lots of other cars out there now that do that, but of course they're all more expensive. And you know, this is an 8-year-old car, generation 1, and in my mind, you know, it's a good thing that Tesla have done this software update and have done something to make this car even better. You know, they've given it a bit more of a longer life to maintain that battery pack a little bit better. So I don't have any issue with it at all. And even at these charge rates, it's still very good for other EVs at the time. You know, back when I was driving Renault Zoe 22 kilowatt hours and Nissan Leafs 24 and 30 kilowatt hour ones, you know, you still don't see those charge rates on those, and they were much newer than what this car is. So yeah, I don't have a problem with it at all. And the real bonus, free charging. So that really is in the icing on the cake, and you know, I'm quite happy to sit here for, what has it been, 40 minutes or so, when it's free fuel. You know, if there was a petrol station nearby that was dumping out free fuel, giving everyone free fuel, but it dribbled it out of the nozzle, you would sit there and take it, wouldn't you? But anyway, that's it. Final check-in. 79% state of charge, and we're now charging at 32 kilowatt, and we've put 52 kilowatt hours of energy into the pack. So that's it. If you like this video, not many of you would have done, but if you have, please do click that thumbs up on YouTube. That really helps other people find the channel, helps with those that YouTube algorithm. Do subscribe to the channel if you haven't. There's more interesting videos than this on the channel, I promise. This is a pretty dull one and in poor light. None of them are hugely professional. Usually it's just me talking into a camera, well, behind a camera. I'm never in the front of a camera, never anything more than my hand. I have no interest in being in front of a camera. You don't want to see me in front of the camera anyway. But yeah, all my videos unscripted, but I just like sharing information about electric vehicles, because I spend all my life sort of educating people on that learning curve to getting their first EV. So yeah, check out the channel, do subscribe if you haven't, and I'll see you on the next one.